Hey everybody, it's Jenni June. Let me get my camera set up straight here. Hi. So glad you guys could join me today. I am Jenni June. I'm a child and family sleep expert here in Los Angeles. I've been practicing for, 6-7 years now, and I have gotten tons of requests from you parents, even other sleep trainers, for help and advice with how to deal with the bedtime battles. Those nighttime negotiations that really throw us off and get us stuck in those, hour and a half long, jumping through hoops to get our kids to settle down and go to bed. It's a real challenge. It is something that we all have been there. We've all dealt with it. And it's a part of little ones, experimenting with what kind of control they have and power they have around your health and safety issues. And don't forget, sleep is indeed a health and safety issue, just like nutrition, car seat safety, anything else. And so starting right out of the gate, my advice to parents who are going through this is to just get your paradigm shift about how you view sleep and all the things that surround that to get them prepared for that. It is a health and safety issue. That's got to be your foundation right there, because boy, we sure approach teaching our kids things, parenting experiences very differently when we look at something as a health and safety issue as opposed to an option or what else would we call it? Just a luxury, or, those things that kind of get us wishy-washy and unsure of ourselves. But when it comes to those health and safety issues, boom, man, we don't play, and our kids need to sense that about ourselves and about, our discussions with them and our routines that we set forth for getting ready for sleep. All right, real quick, I just want to say hi to my friends that I see jumping on. Hi, Lindsay. Hi, Amy. Hi, Hanny. Hi, all of you. I'm so glad to see you. And I'm so grateful you guys do join me here every Thursday at 1 o'clock just to, chat about, the struggles around parenting, and sleep is one of those big issues. And sometimes we talk about things like breastfeeding and, baby care and, and all those other things. I'm certified in dealing with, and helping parents through all of those issues. But sleep is the big one. It's a passion of mine, and I love bringing great tools to the table for you parents to be able to use and implement tonight. So let's say you've got a little one. And by the way, my website is jennijune.com. If you need more information about how I work and my private coaching and my courses and things like that, you can also see some great videos and blogs, my blog page there on my website, jennijune.com. All right, with that said, let's get into it. So let's say you've got a 2, 3-year-old, 4-year-old. I get cases, kids just, still with all kinds of issues, well into their school age and even teen years. Sometimes even adults, who recognize that they have a little, rebellious streak in them when it comes to their sleep, and, the other spouse is ratting them out, and, and I get to, deal with cases like that. But for the most part, about 70% of my cases is sleep training and working with kids ages like 1.5 to like 6 years old. And this is the biggest challenge. So, your kiddo, you're going through your pre-sleep routine. You're getting ready for bed. And your kiddo is negotiating for an additional story. They're, begging for another song. They're throwing a fit through the story. So you skip that and you do something different. And then they throw a fit through that. And then they start asking for more drinks of water and more hugs and more this and more that. And, sometimes the smart ones use the cute language, don't you think? Like the smart ones are like, oh, but mommy, I just want another hug. Or, Daddy, will you just please lay with me? Kind of thing. So it pulls at your heartstrings. You just, you kind of have a tendency to be more sucked in with those cute things, as opposed to the more, terrorist type activities and language, where they're screaming and throwing fits. But bottom line, one thing that I want parents to understand about what's taking place is this. They are really trying to discover if this is truly a health and safety boundary, if this is truly something that is important to you and is important for them. And any of us in a situation where we are, learning the boundaries of a situation, even let's say at work, you're at work and you have a boss who is, in control or in charge of, your department or whatever it is, at your workplace. And let's say your boss is wishy-washy, easily manipulated by yourself or the other employees, changes their mind all the time, doesn't have any sort of policy or procedure in place. Things are kind of like all over the place, a hot mess. And you can't really count on them to be consistent. They're not a sure, steady place. And they're very insecure. They get very anxious or defensive when somebody expresses concern or has questions or is fearful or is reacting in a situation at work that has them feeling kind of insecure. Then they see that their feelings make their boss feel insecure, make that person in leadership, react and get defensive and kind of, cuckoo. And boy, let me ask you a question. How do you feel when you are around leadership like that? How does that impact your department at work? How does that impact your workplace when you have leadership that is like that? How safe and secure do you feel? How set up for success in your job do you feel when you have leadership like that? Bingo. Now, apply that to your role as a parent when you've got little ones who are really trying to just find out what all this is about. What is this particular area of my, daily routine about? Does it mean anything? Is mom and dad worthy to lead me? Do they love me enough even to protect me from my own foolishness? All right? And I am telling you guys, don't be worried about how they push the boundaries and find that out. It's normal for them to express their preferences and tell you that they think your new sleep rules suck and that maybe you're not, or they're not happy that you're no longer going to do the work for them. Like lie down with them until they fall asleep or stay with, or whatever it is that's going on. That's normal. And they're going to do that all the way through until the teenage years and until they're out of the house. They're going to complain about certain things. They have certain preferences, just like you and I do. That's normal. And when they throw fits and cry and scream and negotiate and all of that, trying to see, if they can get you to do the work for them, if they can get you to rescue them from having to do the sleeping, and it works for them, guess what? You just sent them a message that every time they take their fit or their, crying scream or whatever, my goodness, I've seen it all. I have seen it all. I've seen all kinds of craziness go down that kids have learned to do because it works for them. If they even have one experience of a certain type of, thing that they throw into that battle, that trying to engage you in a battle to get you to move your health and safety boundaries around a simple bedtime routine or what sleep is supposed to look like or what they're expected to do, and it works for them, oh my gosh, you guys, you just bought them more tears. You bought them more struggle. You bought them more confusion. And so from there, confusion buys tears and it buys a lot of insecurity. So in thinking that you're providing your kid, an added measure of security because you're making them Disneyland happy and changing the rules of your health and safety boundaries to accommodate what makes them happy in the moment, no matter how crazy it looks, and illogical if you were to step back and really look at the big picture that it looks, you're making the situation worse and you're creating more insecurity for your child. Infant mental health requires one important thing, and we're talking, from 0 to 3 years old. And, I'd like to refer you to the Center for the Developing Child at Harvard University. There's a great website that talks about the different levels of stress that come along with normal parenting experience. And, that there's 3 levels: that toxic stress, that tolerable stress, and that positive stress. This is an area of health and safety. If you are a loving, securely attached family that, responds to your children and, does, rescues them, makes them happy most of the time, you're not a Romanian orphanage. Let's put it that way. You're a westernized, loving family who has responded and bonded to your child. And now you've got to set some boundaries where they're potentially going to, try to push back and see if they really mean anything. And they're going to do everything they can. They're going to do what works for them. What worked for them last time to get you to cave in and throw in the towel and move your boundaries and change your mind and get wishy-washy, that's what they're going to try next time. And they may raise you a level of bananas just for good measure to see if you really mean it this time around. If you're, in that place where you're resolving to jump out of this cycle you're caught up in with your little one and start, creating some consistency and some boundaries around your bedtime routines and such. So, with all that said, you guys, listen. Put your comments and your experiences below here in the feed. I'd love to engage with you and learn a little bit about what you're experiencing, what your questions are. Lindsay says, unsafe and in too much control. Yeah, Lindsay, you are 100% right. We don't feel safe emotionally. Our kids don't feel safe emotionally in that experience. But sometimes it can even be a safety issue, a physical safety issue, when we're doing things, in the sleep environment and such that aren't safe for them, or we're sleep depriving them because we're keeping them up so late, hoping that they'll finally, crash due to exhaustion And, because we can't handle the battles, because we can't figure out how to get control of the situation, where our kids are experiencing extreme sleep deprivation, and that elevates stress levels to chronic states of sleep, or chronic states of stress, I should say. And the first thing that's negatively impacted as a result of that on a physiological level from sleep deprivation, elevating stress levels to chronic states, is the digestive system. So we've got kids who are picky eaters. They're having, troubles digesting their food. It's just, and then we've got all those battles as a result of, slapping Band-Aids on things and just trying to, take the road of least resistance. So, there's a lot of, you're right, Lindsay, it's unsafe in many ways. When we give our kids too much control and we stop being the leader and the leader that they need. And if we want to raise great leaders, by the way, everyone, a great leader must first learn to be led. You are the one most important person to model that for them. They need to learn to be led. Lead them confidently. Don't disappoint them. When they push your boundaries, when they try to see if you're worthy of leading them, don't disappoint them. Hold that space for them. Be a sure, steady place. Be consistent. Respect their intelligence. Tell them in advance what you expect them to do. Have a simple list of your bedtime routine. When they start negotiating, point to the list with the pictures that they colored in that they helped you make and say, oh, I'm sorry, we only have one bedtime story with our bedtime routine. But you know what? In the morning, when we wake up well rested, because we're going to get, settled here into bed and get some good sleep, then we'll have a story in the morning at the breakfast table. All right? Simple things like that go a long way. And when you're confident in that, it makes a big difference, because confidence in you breeds confidence in your child. They're confident when they see that you're confident. All right? And insecurity breeds insecurity. Hold on here. I see a good question. Sharon, she says, my 3-year-old just gets up and out of bed multiple times, wanted to play or cuddle. I'm guilty for giving in and giving her more notice. But on nights I mean business, she goes right to sleep. Let's see what else it says here. I have to be more consistent. I'm so glad and grateful that you shared that with everybody, Sharon, because you know what? That's been the experience for most of us here. I think we could all raise our hands, the raise your hand emoji. We've all been there. We've all done it, myself included, with my 4 kids. And they're all grown now, but, I still sometimes cave in when they, certain things happen. But yeah, that's a unique situation. When I work with older kids who have the ability to leave the room, they're no longer in a crib and they have this, the bed that they figure out they can get at, they can leave and get out and, go back and forth and all of that. That poses a different kind of challenge. And you have to have a reminder tool in place. And I have a system that I use with my older kiddos that works beautifully. It never fails. I give parents 3 options of, how they're going to remind their kiddos to follow the health and safety manners around sleep, and most importantly, staying in that bed, putting yourself back to sleep should you wake up in the middle of the night, staying in your bed until it's the family wake up time. How do we enforce that? Because rules and manners that you lay out mean nothing if you don't have a way to enforce them. And I like to call them reminder tools. This is what we're going to do should you decide, or should you forget your family sleep manners. Here's what we're going to do. Let's role play in advance. Let's look at how this is going to look for you. Let me show you what it might feel like for you. And give them permission to feel these normal feelings of frustration, anger, upset. Maybe they don't like your stinky new sleep manners. Tell them that's normal. All change, even good change, has a couple of days of temporary struggle involved until you get used to it. But practice makes perfect. And you're there to support that. And with a consistent, expectations that you don't waver from no matter what, unless there's an illness or something like that, and a consistent way to provide a reminder in place for them, hopefully one that doesn't allow too much engagement in a battle from you, where they can engage you in the battle. There's different ways of doing this. Some some families better than others, but there's some great options on how to do that. But it can go a long way when you really do have a comprehensive plan set out and they know in advance what's expected of them. And Lindsay says, it's 7:30 bedtime, 4.5 hours after waking from the 1 to 3 p.m. nap. Too late. Oh, is a 7:30 bed. Too late for an almost 3-year-old. Yes. Girl, you're missing that like a lot that's way too much. If you don't believe me, go out to dinner anywhere in LA after 7 o'clock where there's kids under 3.5, 4 years old, and you will know exactly what I'm talking about. It is way too much sleep pressure built up on the brain. They have missed that window. and it's too late. Once you miss it, you don't get it back. Melatonin's left the building, and it isn't coming back home. And what you're seeing at that point, at 4.5 hours after they've woken from, let's say, a 3 o'clock, a nap that ended at 3, you're seeing cortisol, that wakefulness hormone. And if they're overtired already and have accumulated a sleep debt, you're seeing adrenaline into the system as well, which is a stress hormone. Those things turn into stress hormones when we're overtired. And that's where we start seeing, the overtired signs, the hyperactive signs, all the negotiations. My goodness, when I work with a family, before we even look at these behavioral things, we got to get the sleep science. We got to get those 4 pillars of sleep hygiene underway first, because that's what sets them up for success. It's all about the hormones. If the brain and body are flooded with those powerful, potent sleep hormones at sleep onset, then, the brain and body want to do the sleeping. And when that happens, it's much more difficult for them to start pushing boundaries and sustain a big fight and a battle that they want to engage you in to push your boundaries. So, my 4 pillars of sleep hygiene are the secret to, shockingly, it just shocks parents how well it works. And oftentimes, getting to the behavioral part after that, once you get that in place, is just ripping off the rest of that little tiny bit that's left of that Band-Aid, because those 4 pillars do a lot of the work for them. And it makes the situation a lot easier for everyone. So good question. Oh, and the rest of your question is, he's waking at 5:15. So Jenny, so the Jenni June voice in my head is saying earlier bedtime, 7 p.m. Thoughts? Look for those cues. Gosh, you know what, Lindsay? I think we worked together before. I think I've spoken with you. Remember the cues that I taught you to use? Those are the physiological signs when melatonin is elevating in the system, those relaxed state cues. And if you know when that's happening, because it's a very brief window, 10 to 15 minutes, you're anticipating that in advance, and you've got your meal and your pre-sleep routine accomplished by the time you start to see those brief, subtle, relaxed state cues when melatonin is elevating in the system, then at that point, you're laying your child down for nap time or bedtime. And that's where you find your sweet spot. So without having enough information, details at where your child's at right now and what's going on, you never want to go beyond, ideally, if there's a sleep debt involved, you want to wait, you want to kind of at first keep it around 3.5 hours. And then, you can inch it up a little bit from there, but 4 hours is generally the max for a kid this age, for that sleep pressure formula. All right. 7 o'clock would be the very latest. Okay. The Jenni June voice in your head. I love you. That's so funny. Okay. I think that's, there's another question here. No, I think, my 9-month-old is doing well with her feeding. Tanya says, her bedtime routine, but her falling asleep rhythm seems to be at different times every night. This is a time when they really need to be on a feeding schedule and sleep schedule that's conducive with one another. That's one thing that I certainly provide for my families that I work with. It's not just looking at sleep. We've got to look at everything else. We've got to take a holistic approach to the entire day's routines, including those feeding routines, the order of when things come. Are we using some of those feedings as a way to relax our child, sending that signal to them that, having it become a sleep crutch in a way? Are we, there's a lot of different things that we need to look at with that. And so getting all put together in a comprehensive, easy to follow plan that is tailored to your unique child's needs and age and all of that is so important. And then once you get that in place, you got to stick with it. You got to get it on lockdown for at least 21 days to form a complete permanent new baseline habit. And then from there, you can practice the 80-20 rule where you can relax a little bit and, have some flexibility a few times a week when, you'd like to get out and, go to Disneyland all day or the beach or whatnot. So thank you for that question. Very good. Kelly Bates. My 20-month-old is suddenly walking around 5:30 a.m., goes down for a nap at 1 p.m. and sleeps typically until 3 p.m. Okay. Let's see. Then bedtime is 7:45. How do I get this morning wake time to be later? Even 6 a.m. would be great. Okay, so here's something that's going to be completely counterintuitive to our adult sleep logic, to your adult sleep logic. Many parents believe that an earlier bedtime is going to cause the earlier waking. It doesn't. In fact, it's the exact opposite. It's because sleep has nothing to do with the contents of the stomach. Sometimes it's not even behavioral. It's just the fact that we need to make sure that they're falling asleep, that they're going down for bed with enough of those potent, powerful sleep hormones at sleep onset. And we are 99% of the time, most of my clients, when they come to me, they are totally missing the mark with that. Their bedtimes are way too late. They're confused about what sleep cues really look like, and they're actually going off of overtired cues. And once you see those, it's too late. Party's over. The other thing too is, what kinds of things have you conditioned your child to believe they need to have in place in order to get relaxed or to get all the way to sleep and connect from one sleep cycle to the next? That actually sometimes is established with some of the stuff that goes on during the naps, and it carries over and really negatively impacts night sleep. They're very connected. You can't just nap train and then, later on night train, or night train and then later on nap train. It's got to all come together at once. It is one big jigsaw puzzle, and every little piece has its role and impacts what the overall picture of that jigsaw puzzle is going to look like when it's complete. So, when you've got an extra early morning wake up, and that'll be a whole nother video because I could go on and on about how to fix that. Their natural biological wake time is anywhere between 6 and 7 a.m. in the morning. That's when core body temperatures naturally elevate. And when that happens, we can no longer get those restorative stages of sleep. It's just junk sleep at that point. It may feel good in the moment if you're super sleep deprived and you're waking up already sleep deprived because that sleep is fragmented all night because you went to bed too late, didn't catch that wave of hormones, and now you can't experience the deep restorative stages as a result of that. It's all connected. So if that makes any sense, and I'm already going way past time because I could go on and on as the sleep geek that I am, and talk about that with you guys. But obviously, if you want, a tailored, amazing plan for your unique child and family with all of these things in place, and the coaching that I provide, consecutive days on call to get you through to the other side, because half of the habits here, actually it's more than half, are your habits, not your child's habits. We got to change your habits if we're going to get your child out of the cycles that you guys find yourselves in. So my coaching is available to you through my packages as well, and you can see all that on my website. So just head over to jennijune.com. You'll see some great blogs, some helpful tips that I give there, some great videos, baby care videos for the first year of life, some helpful stuff. And you'll see the services and pricing page, a description of how I work, the different services I offer, and the pricing right there. So head over there and you can get some more information. Jennifer says, my 15-month-old and 3.5-year-old share a room starting 6 months ago. Every night seems different. How many naps should my 15-month-old be taking? My 3-year-old doesn't nap anymore. They go to bed between 7:30 and 8 p.m. Ooh, that's a late bedtime for kids that age. So that right there, I'll just give you a heads up. You know what? Err on the side of earlier than later. They have definitely missed their window at that point. No matter, and napping beyond 3 o'clock is going to wreck night sleep. It just gets them off of their circadian rhythms. So, we'd really need to do an overhaul on the timing of sleep, which is the 4th pillar of sleep hygiene. And then probably the 3rd pillar of sleep hygiene, get that locked down for you too, which is those pre-sleep routines. Those are powerful tools if they are performed correctly. They serve 2 important functions. They kickstart that melatonin production, and they signal to the brain and body that sleep is about to come, which is also the essence of routine. It's what helps provide a foundation of emotional well-being for your children. It can really reduce, the level of protest and resistance. So there's a lot that needs to be looked at here. Your 15-month-old, I would definitely need to do an evaluation on a thorough intake form for your 15-month-old, just to see if there's readiness signs presenting of how many naps, if he's ready to drop from 2 to 1, and what that's really looking like. So if you'd like to work together more closely on that, Jennifer, just email me through my website, jennijune.com, and share this information in the box there, and we'll chat. Maybe we'll jump on a quick call and talk a little more about that, and I'll give you some more information about how I work. All right, guys, so bedtime battles. Let's just recap really quick. You guys have to jump out of the cycle. You have to understand the difference between tears of temporary struggle while learning a new skill or adapting to a new parenting response versus tears of suffering, which we always immediately respond to. But if you know that you have set your child up for success with a great bedtime routine, it's brief, it's not too long, you're not over-soothing them, the hormones are there, you're seeing those cues, everything's lined up, the sleep environment's, primed, and they're tired and they need to sleep. Provide a predictable routine. Let them know that this is what's expected and this is what's going to happen, regardless of what shenanigans they throw at you. And when they do throw those battles at you, remain a sure, steady place. The worst thing that you can do is get reactive. Keep every component of your routine in place. Don't skip anything. Don't add anything. Don't change things around simply because they're having a wall-eyed fit, and throwing a tantrum during the story, trying to derail you or derail the inevitable bedtime. When you do that, you are just buying them more struggle, more confusion, and ultimately more tears. So if that's the goal, that's what needs to happen. All right, I'm Jenni June, you guys. I will see you next Thursday at 1 o'clock. Again, keep putting your comments below, even though you're not here with us live. I'll try to answer those the best I can the rest of this week, and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye.